Hello folks and welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about our ground crew interface and the payload manager that comes with the Lockheed Vega. You can access this with Shift 2 that opens this panel here. You see on the left side is the ground crew interface for all the ground equipment that you can install, and on the right side you've got a simple weight and balance sheet that gives you some indication as to your payload. And as you see at the moment, the aircraft is empty, there's no cargo loaded, and even the fuel tanks are quite low, and we want to change that. But let's look at the ground crew first. So on the left side you have a list of all the ground crew, all the ground equipment that you can install, and you can do so by simply clicking on one of these items. So let's start by just installing some wheel shocks. And one thing that you'll notice is that they won't just appear, but instead I simulate that the ground crew comes in and actually needs to physically put these things down. So every single item on the list will take a little bit of time until it's there. Another way to access this is you can simply click on the photograph. So for instance, if you click on number 4, that installs the battery card, and that will hook up the battery of the aircraft with an auxiliary battery if you're low on power, for instance. Now let's start with the fuel. So we already one requirement for the loading is that the wheel chocks are installed, but they're already here. However, if they weren't, your ground crew would automatically take care of that. So the way this payload manager works is that you pre-select what you want to load. So let's say we want to load 75% of fuel in each of these tanks. That would mean we've got 98 kilograms of fuel in the left wing and 98 kilograms in the right wing. And by the way, you can change to imperial units by a simple click, so that toggles pounds. So now all the weight is adjusted for pounds. But this doesn't do anything at the moment. You need to advise your ground crew to actually load this fuel. So this is just a pre-selection. And to do so, you click on the button Load Fuel. And the ground crew will bring the barrels, and they will start pumping fuel into the 2 wing tanks. And you can see in orange, that's the actual fuel status right now. And this is an information that is only available to you while on the ground. As soon as you're in the air, you will know how much fuel you loaded initially. However, it's not updated during your flight, and that is again to give you a little bit of an immersion factor here. It's because you don't know 100% how full your tanks are, and there is 2 fuel gauge indicators inside of the cockpit, but they tend to be a little bit unreliable. Next thing we do is to load up some passengers. So the Lockheed Vega of that time was capable of transporting up to 6 people, 6 passengers plus the pilot. And you can load these passengers by clicking on the seats that are available here. And once again, this is only a pre-selection, and you get an idea as to how your weight changes. But in order to get these passengers on board, you have to click Board Passengers. But there is a few requirements for this, and that is that the passengers need the passenger stairs or the passenger steps to be installed. However, if you click the button, what you will see is that the ground crew is opening the door, and they will automatically queue up the job to install your passenger steps. And now the passengers will board one after the other. And so indicated in blue are the passengers that are already on board. And if we do the same thing for the cargo, let's get the baggage cart in first. So here's the baggage cart. And now, oh, by the way, so the way both the tank and the cargo works is you can either use your mouse wheel to increase or decrease your pre-selected weight. You can also use just the buttons. or you can click inside of the tank in order to pre-select what you want to load up. So let's load 80 kilograms of cargo and click on load cargo. Again, the ground crew will open the door. This time they don't need the stairs, and they will fill the little cargo hole behind the rear seat. And one cool little feature is that you can see how instead of just chucking it in, they're actually loading bag by bag into the aircraft. And once the loading procedure is done, they will automatically remove all the ground equipment that was required for this operation. Now let's just disconnect the battery card and disconnect the wheel chocks. And now we're ready to go. So that was this short introduction to how the ground crew interface works. I hope it gave you some insight, and I see you soon.